So there's been two reports now connecting Drummond to the Nets, one from Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer, one from Zach Harper of The Athletic. I'm going to choose to believe that there's something real to this. The first thing to think about, granted, dive into this more if it actually happens, but would Drummond really be the savior of the Nets? I mean, the last two times he's played Embiid, he hasn't been embarrassed, so that could be a good sign. That said, Embiid has still gotten the better of Drummond many times, and, well, it is what it is. We'll have to see if it happens. That said, I don't think the Nets are going to have a better option than obtaining Andre Drummond through a buyout later on in the season for their center position. So that's my short answer for that. Now, if we think about how it could actually happen, I mean, so I've already seen the idea of, well, why would the Cavs buy out Drummond if they could trade him? Well, he makes $28 million, so that makes it tough. There's a couple teams that are underneath the salary cap, the Knicks, Hornets, Thunder, and Kings. However, even though they are under the cap, there's a rule for some of those teams at least to where they would still have to get within $5 million of Drummond's money, so the whole underneath the cap, don't have to match thing, it doesn't totally apply here. Now, is there a move out there where some team just thinks that Drummond can really help them out and they could then look to sign him when he hits free agency? I mean, possibly, but who's the team? Maybe you would say the Celtics because of their trade exception, but Drummond makes 28.7. The full trade exception, with which they don't even have right now, is 28.5, so that doesn't work. To mention Charlotte again, they actually could go for Drummond if they included Zeller and a couple of non-essential guys. I guess Sacramento could do something kind of similar. Besides that, I think it's tough to find the make us better by trading for Drummond team, given how much money he makes and how much money you might still have to pay him moving forward. Now, I think it's a little more possible that he could be traded for a bad contract than that other team gets an expiring. The two examples I could find are Steven Adams and Al Horford, but then the Cavs are going to want an asset back, and it's tough to find that perfect move. I doubt the Pistons are going to give you any sort of an asset to get off of Blake's money. I think they're not okay with riding that out, but I think they're just kind of forced into that position. So my point with all that is, yeah, it's possible for a Drummond trade, but I don't think there's just going to be a million suitors for the guy if he's on the trade market. I mean, we saw what happened last year. We saw what he was moved for, but he's on an expiring now, so maybe that makes the possibility a little easier. I'm not sure for a fact if it's that much more possible than it was a year ago, but maybe. I guess the next thing to think about is, would the Cavs just want to hold on to Drummond for the whole season? Now, I know Jared Allen, that whole thing, I don't think they're going to re-sign Drummond past this year, but for this one season, Cleveland is in the unique situation where they're not bad. And I don't think any of us saw that coming. And we'll see if they just end up falling off as the year goes on. But if they have an opportunity to get into the play-in tournament and they think keeping Drummond is the best way to do that, would they do it? Now, I guess if Drummond was adamant enough about wanting a buyout, then they'd probably do it anyway, especially because Jared Allen's there. But I guess it's something to still take into account. Like, what if they were just all in on, you know what, let's just go for the playoffs? And do I think that's the right move for them long term? No, I think they should want to get into the lottery again. But you never know. You never know with NBA front offices. Now, to get into the buyout specifics, and there's a chance that I'm dead wrong on everything I've said in this video, but especially everything I'm about to say. But for my understanding, the way that a buyout works is that it's an agreement between the player and the team to where the player is content with leaving some money on the table for the sake of being out of his contract, and then the team doesn't get killed with the guy's salary for the next 5 seasons, right? Well, Drummond makes $28 million, as we know, which means he's going to want to wait a decent ways into the season so he doesn't sacrifice too much money off of his contract, because that's a lot of money. I mean, this is a bit different than a guy who makes $7 million getting a buyout. For what all that really means, I don't know, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. Which for the Nets means, well, they're probably going to have to figure out the center position in the meantime. Now, they've got the Spencer Dinwiddie injury exception, which is $5 million. They have the taxpayer mid-level, which is also $5 million. And Dwayne Dedmon is sitting there. They, of course, just signed Norvel Pell, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He has not played for them yet. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's because of health precautions that he's not on the team yet. I don't think they've technically signed him yet. There's a chance that they're using one of those exceptions on him. That being said, his contract is not going to be $5 million, which is what both of those exceptions are valued at apiece. The timing of the Drummond buyout is going to be huge, assuming he's not traded or whatever else, or the Cavs don't want to keep him. Because, I don't think he's going to get bought out like tomorrow. It's going to be a little while. He wants to get some of his money first. Or maybe he gets bought out in record timing because it's 2021, and why not? I guess to get back to the basketball stuff, just because I opened up with that Embiid thing, thinking about Drummond and if the Nets were to get him, and how he weighs versus the other playoff teams, could he be the rim protector to stop Giannis, or be part of the wall that can contain Giannis, I guess? I mean, I would bet no. Look, I understand Drummond has been better this season, but there is still years of evidence that suggests the guy's going to grab some rebounds, and he might score some points, but in terms of spacing the floor, being a playmaker outside of that one stretch of games before they traded for Blake, being a really good defender, it's Andre Drummond. We know what he is at this point. There's a chance that he's turned a corner at 27 years old. It's not impossible, but if I'm thinking about what he's been versus the Bucks, no, I don't think he could be the rim protector to slow down Giannis. If we think about him versus the Celtics, I think he's got potential to grab a lot of offensive rebounds against the Celtics. I mean, Tristan Thompson will battle him for some boards. At the same time, Thompson's better on the offensive glass and the defensive glass. I think the Celtics as a team wouldn't be too intimidated by Drummond around the basket, although I do think he would have potential to grab some offensive boards on him. I think they would just try to make him defend and pick and roll and see if he can do it pretty much. Try to get him switched sometimes. If we're talking about a Bam-Drummond matchup, I'm going to take Bam on both sides of the floor in that. I think Bam could box out Drummond quite a lot in a playoff series. Similar things with if it's Sabonis or Miles Turner who gets matched up on him with Indiana. But again, with all this said, he's by far their best potential option for the center position. So even if the Nets front office wouldn't think that Drummond would be the difference between them losing in the conference finals, winning the finals, whatever, you still do it. He's better than DeAndre Jordan, definitely. So that's my take on the Drummond thing. I think between the possibility of some sort of trade, even if I don't think there's an obvious one out there, on top of maybe the Cavs just want to hold on to him, there's a chance he doesn't end up in Brooklyn. If I had to bet on it, I do think the buyout will happen. But again, it's going to be a little while, so the Nets are going to have to figure things out in the meantime.